All right, welcome everyone to the new edition of Two Coaches, One Grizz. I am Frank Morales, alongside my co-host Gil Laura and Mario the Grizz Mesa. How we doing today, gentlemen?
Solid.
Just another day here in the beautiful Miami, Florida.
Sounds Gucci. All right, so hey, we're going to jump right into last weekend's events in the NFL. Coach, talk to me about your biggest events that you saw during this last weekend.
Well, again, I'm looking at all the rookie quarterbacks playing, how they're doing, what they've done, and all of a sudden, Mac Jones is stepping up and setting himself apart from these other quarterbacks. I mean, is he the best rookie quarterback of last year's draft?
I'll add my thoughts right off the hit. I mean, it would be the fate of the New England Patriots to have 20 years of the GOAT and then, one down year because, half their defense took a year off due to COVID, and then just jump right back on the horse with a rookie quarterback that is cool, calm, and collective, a lot like the predecessor that was there for 20 years, the GOAT.
I have to agree with you, Frank. I mean, it kind of seems a little bit like the days of Favre transitioning to Aaron Rodgers. Imagine having 2-3 decades worth of just excellence at quarterback. And we're all praying as, we got a Raider fan here, but fellow Dolphin fans.
I'm a Giants fan.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm the only one aboard this sinking ship. Okay. Well, anyway.
I still pull for the Dolphins.
You guys pull for the home team while we're here just for, anybody's sake. But the point is, we all can agree another decade or two of this Patriot thing would be terrible. Thankfully, Josh Allen, the Bills, even though I hate them too, they'll be probably stepping it up and they'll be in charge of this division for years to come.
And we go back to, what you guys are talking about with all this stuff. Like, okay, so how is it that they continue to find these diamonds in the rough? How do they get these guys? They waited late in the first round, still got their guy. They pick up these other guys in the second, third, fourth, fifth round. I mean, Tom Brady, what round was he drafted in? It's a sixth rounder. Sixth round.
Pick 199.
Exactly. And how is it that they continue to work in that fashion? And we, and I include the Raiders and the Dolphins.
Bill Belichick. That's how.
I mean, even though, yes, Bill is a driving factor, I also think that they have good scouts. They have a great front office.
Scouts. Great front office. It's the Patriot way.
And it's incredible.
I mean, here's the thing too, right? Like the whole speculation before draft day was, are the 49ers crazy enough to choose Mac Jones over Trey Lance? And again, it still may be the correct choice when it's all said and done. But you also have to look at there's a little bit of luck involved in there too. I mean, he dropped to 15. It's not like this guy was a scrub. I mean, he was on the best team in college football, was developed, sat behind two national champions. Okay, both, one was a top 5 pick. The other one is doing work in the NFL as well. Okay. I mean, just think of that quarterback room a few years back at Alabama. So, yes, is he a rookie? But the guy had time to study and get better and become cerebral at the game.
He was the 5th quarterback selected. You know what I'm saying? They were 4 other guys ahead of this guy, and usually it doesn't matter. It's just, can you spot talent? He's a talented guy. Who's to say? You only judge this, I think, 3 to 4 years from now. You have to wait and see because, this year's great. What if, you don't have the talent? It's all about also where you're drafted.
I'm also impressed, and I have to say that what impresses me with watching him, and again, he hasn't really beat anybody. He's beat the Jets twice and he beat the Texans. But with that being said, he is facing NFL defenses.
You can only play in front of you who you got, and he's doing that.
And he's progressing. He's reading. He's gotten better in 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. Whereas you got the kid over Justin Fields over there in Chicago. They're blitzing him. He can't process things right now. He's been thrown into the fire. and they need to now to pull back the reins again.
Now, if I can interject there, I'm sorry. I know that I cut you off, but it also there's a lot to say there about development and putting your player, especially a quarterback in the NFL, in the right positions. You can't fit a square peg into a round hole. Okay, they're putting the right system around him, playing to his strengths. Okay, it's not a go out there and see what you can do situation. Unlike the Jets situation where they just threw him out there. There's no development.
He's a very accurate quarterback too. He's doing just the simple plays that are just super accurate.
And not to defend
like 70%.
Not to defend the Jets. I mean, the death of their offensive coordinator.
I mean, that was
few
huge.
weeks before the season started, I think dampened any kind of opportunity that Wilson was going to have in that offense. That's my take on it.
And the crazy thing is I think he's just scratching the surface. I think it's only going to just grow and develop from there. Again, I mean, what the offensive coordinator for the Patriots, I mean, McDaniels,
Josh.
Yes, had the greatest quarterback, in NFL history, but he's a hell of a coordinator. He knows what to do and put his players in the best situations to succeed.
No, yeah, definitely.
Well, we can all agree that he's probably the best quarterback from this class. Let's go check back last year's class with Burrows last week, taking it to the Ravens, while Herbert the week before went up there and laid an egg. I mean, this Burrow kid, phenomenal. And it doesn't hurt to have Chase on your team. That guy's phenomenal too. But that game last week, what do you think, Gil? I mean, that was a little bit of a shocker.
They completely dominated that team, but again, we go back to what we've been talking off air about conference games, conference underdogs. Those conference games they're game changers because they know each other so well. They get prepared. They play each other twice a year. So yes, Herbert came in, got his butt whooped. Understood. It's an interconference game. They're not. But Mr. Burrows goes in there, plays extremely well. The defense was the one that is really making some strides. They're putting pressure on quarterbacks. They stopped the running game. They really did a great job of keeping Baltimore in check.
So when you look at the game on the defensive side, it's kind of a deep dive. Coaches, speak here, but they went old school, with how they stopped Lamar Jackson. Back in the day when the premier dual threat quarterback in the league was Michael Vick, how did teams stop him? Go zero coverage, right? And zero blitz him. Okay? And with Michael Vick, he was not a progression. His strength was not reading through his progressions in the pass game. Now, Lamar Jackson is a lot more polished in that sense. But, they went back to something, not reinventing the wheel. They went back to something that's tried and true based off of a similar quarterback. So that was, it was impressive. It was impressive to see, to say the least.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. The defense has been the major stepping point for that team, but you got to say it. This kid Burrows. Obviously, I thought he was the best quarterback last year with the way he played his last year in LSU. And everybody's hating on Tua. We should have got Herbert. I just think, I've said this already, I think Herbert on the Dolphins probably is not as good. There's not as much talent if you switch him around. But I think Burrow's the kind of guy that put him anywhere.
But right now, when you compare the Bengals team to the Dolphins team, it's day and night. They've taken strides. They got a good running back with Mixon. They've got their offensive line again is opening the way for the offense to be successful, offensively passing and throwing. They've got a nice mix. You go back to Tua. Tua didn't have a terrible game last week. He threw for 4 touchdowns. They moved the ball.
Best game probably of his career.
And we're still struggling to keep up to win a game. So again, to me, it's a whole team situation. And they've been hating. Let me tell you something. They've been hating on the head coach of the Bengals for about a year and a half now because he came over from the Rams. And they've been, he's not this, he's not that, he's not the other. And I think he's now starting to show,
You got to give him time. Last year was an odd year. You got a guy coming in his rookie year. You lose him at the end of the year anyway. So I personally had no problem with the coach. And given the time, given the training camp, you see. But I'm saying 6 weeks ago, before the season started, 7 weeks ago, I mean, you're thinking the Dolphins are the team taking the stride. Everybody's pushing on them. And the Bengals are going to make their stride going too, but you can't see. I mean, seeing them defeat the Ravens like that, I think I would put them in the contenders spot of the AFC, if you ask me.
As of right now, I do agree. They are definitely contenders.
Let's go back to that comparison that you guys brought up between Tua and Burrows. Now, you got one quarterback, right, in Tua, who never really had to go through that adversity in college, right? He was behind probably the best offensive line in college football, okay? Ready-made team. You know, the adversity it did face was injuries, okay? Now, you look at Burrows. Burrows transferred. He sat behind 3 quarterbacks at Ohio State before finally transferring to LSU. There's there's a moxie and grit there that you build up that, you know, it's an intangible that you can't really quantify there. And to that respect, it also helps when you draft a, you know, specimen at receiver who he already had chemistry with beforehand.
But
so
don't forget the team that he ended up landing on with LSU. He didn't just go to, you know.
Give me some of that adversity, please.
Who shot the Bear College.
Right, but before
you know
that.
what I'm saying? He ended up going to LSU. LSU was loaded with talent. They had a great offensive coordinator, had a tremendous defensive coordinator.
Thank God for the transfer portal.
I mean, let me tell you.
Where would he be? There would be some serious adversity if you didn't have that.
And he had great receiver. I mean, you know, he landed in a great spot.
Coach, 85% completion percentage over a season.
But again, if you take a look at what they ran, the guy was there for a year too, and he's now in the NFL as the offensive coordinator.
Oh, this is true.
You get me? So, I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, again, he landed on a great football team. You know, he's a good athlete. He's an excellent quarterback, no doubt. My thing is, Tua had comparable type of athletes around him in Alabama and succeeded. Because remember, he came in and took over for our boy, the quarterback for the Eagles, okay? And Hurts was not moving the ball.
He was not.
And Tua came in and won the game and took him to the national championship.
Correct.
So,
I mean, it's just, again, going back to that quarterback room. Wow.
You know, and that's what I'm trying to say. When you surround them with talent and with a good offensive line, the kids are going to perform.
Correct.
Okay? And again, we go back to last week's conversation. We just don't have the O-line.
Yeah, right.
You know?
And to Tua's, you know, credit, he is performing despite the lack of balance in that offense.
And
because
again,
as we discussed last
at
week.
At this time, and it's still, we're not even halfway through the season now. It's 17 games now. You know, the Bengals do look like contenders at this time.
Correct.
We'll have to revisit this in a couple of weeks when they play the Browns, the Raiders, the Steelers, and the Chargers. That's a nice little gauntlet.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the other side of that, the pretenders, which unfortunately is KC now. That's amazing to me. What? And talk about 6-7 weeks ago, where do you think we were at? You got KC now as a team that might not even make the playoffs. What you think of that, Gil?
Are we panicking too early? Are we pulling the plug?
Personally, I'm not going to panic. But I think anybody who's 3-4 in the way that, oh my God, no touchdowns. I think for the first time in the Pat Mahomes era in a regular season game ever.
What was Tampa Bay's record last year after 7 games? What was Tampa Bay at?
Oh, they were 3-4 as well.
I don't know. I'm just asking.
I'm asking.
I'm throwing that out there. You know, what was Tampa Bay's record last year? Because Tampa Bay's record after 5 or 6 games, everybody was wondering, oh, what's going on with Tom, the GOAT, bro? And all of a sudden, the next 10, 11 weeks of the season, and boom. So,
Right,
again.
it takes time to figure out. Now, I will say this. We're talking about a team whose expectation, right, the experts in the field, right, we're saying that they might have a chance to go undefeated. Now, obviously, extremely hard to do. Only been done once, right? Grudgingly, shout out to the Dolphins. But anyway, you know, the expectations were there, and they've fallen far short. it's mostly due to their defense. They cannot stop a single soul defensively. And let's talk about it. Part of that is due to the fact that they had to pay Patrick Mahomes, right? So you're spending that money on one end, your team's going to suffer somewhere else.
And again, and if we, stealing a line, if we circle back to the New England Patriots, the reason New England Patriots won so many championships with Tom Brady was because he never took that big payday. He always kept himself at a decent salary, but wanted to make sure that the team was well stocked so that they could keep making runs. And if you take a look at it, that's why now they say your best shot at making the Super Bowl or winning a championship is the first 5 years of the quarterback's rookie contract. Because since it's staged in a certain fashion, you're able to spend money in all different areas. If you take a look at New Orleans, when New Orleans gave Breeze the big money,
downhill.
Exactly. And
what happened to the Legion of Boom in Seattle when Russell got paid?
Got the big money. And again, and that's the thing that I think that the quarterbacks need to understand, as well as the front office personnel.
I think it's common sense, but everybody's greedy, man. I mean, the guy's got $500 million contract, basically. Man, not everything's guaranteed, but it's just absurd. I mean, I would personally be like, I'm good with this amount. I want my team to be able to have enough players on there that can win titles. I think, if not,
when you look at the contract, I think the Chiefs did a pretty solid job of spreading out the money because it is a 10-year contract, and that's the first time that's ever been done. They kind of hedged their bets in that sense to, save themselves money in the long run. But you know how
it's the A-Rod contract of the NFL.
Right. You know how NFL contracts work. They're front loaded, right? So
correct.
They're probably going to be hurting on defensively for the next 2 or 3 years.
We also touched upon it a little bit last week. Their offensive line is still,
gelling. Correct.
They just put a right tackle in. Remmers just started last week, okay, to try to get that O-line going, to make sure. And I'm going to say it again, and it's been said a few times around. And I heard it today, and I completely agree with it. The other side of it is they're not being patient in running the football. They're getting a too high safety look. They're saying you're not going to throw it deep. We're not going to let Patrick Mahomes run around and sling it. And they continue to feed into that offensive mentality. Run the ball. Be a little patient. And it was great because they made a comparison today to Peyton Manning with the Colts. When everybody was playing the Colts too high, Peyton would turn around, hand it off,
Correct.
Dink and dunk. And then all of a sudden, when they started bringing that other safety down, then it opened up the offense again.
I mean, it just goes back to the importance of protection up front. I mean, losing Eric Fisher and them having to make that decision to let him go or not renew his contract, again, part of it was due to injury, but that's not a piece that's easily replaceable. That guy was a plug-and-play Pro Bowl starter for them.
Yeah, it starts up front.
And he's doing well with the Colts now. So
the other guy that left was also Schwartz, which was Jeff Schwartz's brother.
Correct.
He's another solid old lineman. I mean, it is what it is, and it's going to take a couple of more weeks. I don't think that they are pretenders. I do think that they will make a comeback, and I think they'll be able to sneak in at least as a wild card. And they could be a dangerous wild card.
Oh, yeah. I personally don't put them as a pretender. I laugh because it's just the thing to say right now. But, yeah, you get them in at 10-7. They're probably the scariest wild card team in the history of the NFL. And, obviously, the Bucs last year, wild card team, 3 straight wins, Super Bowl bound. It's all about getting hot. And if they end up winning 6 or 7 games in a row at the end of the season, they'd probably be my pick to win it all.
And let's be honest. I mean, the core pretty much is still there for that team. When they went on their Super Bowl run, they were down in every single game, double digits, and they came back to win every single game.
Correct.
Because the Texans had them dead to rights in that AFC Championship game. I mean, what was it? It was a 24-point lead, and they came back to take it.
Storming back,
31-27, I believe, if my memory serves correct.
Yeah, even the Super Bowl. They went down.
Yeah, but you know the old adage, you can't live by that. You're going to die by that eventually.
Correct.
And things have been catching up this whole season, been behind the whole time, and Exactly. You're just not going to catch up every single time. So they got to get the defense shored up. But now, if they end up making it there, who do you think we got on that NFC? It's still loaded. All the teams last week we said only had one loss and an undefeated team, all still there. And now, even more, I'm more sold on the Cardinals. And I'm sold on, let me see here, the Bucks always, obviously. Still not sold on the boys, though.
Well, again, if the Cowboys are able to keep that defense playing, okay, Dak is the key there. Dak is the key.
And he's an iffy for this week, right?
Well, so he did his individual drills today. He looked good, so I do think he's more than 90% that he'll play this week. I also think they're doing a good job of running the football with Zeke.
Zeke is back.
Okay, and with the other running back as well. I think they're doing a nice little thunder and lightning type of deal with both running backs and the O-line. And it's been for the Cowboys, the key there has been the health of their offensive line. Whenever the offensive line has gotten 1 or 2, 3 guys hurt, all of a sudden everything changes for them.
Everything collapses. No running game. You get your quarterback beat up.
Correct.
Yeah, always stays with that.
Correct.
But I'm telling you, the Cards adding.
Cards add a little test. I know.
No, but adding what's this guy's name? Ertz.
Oh yeah.
Oh, love it.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a key pickup for the whole season.
This Thursday night, they got a nice game against Green Bay, even though Green Bay is down a couple of guys. They now lose J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
J.J. Watt is out for this game. So that hurts their run game, the run defense. So again,
they're going to run the ball
if
big
Green
time
Bay can run the ball
Aaron
some,
Jones, yep.
and Green and again, I don't think I could ever go against Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers will make someone else look good.
He finds a way.
Put timing in the game.
Exactly. Yeah,
he's going to have a nice game.
For sure. And Randall Cobb. Again, these are all.
Cobb's going to think it's 2013, bro. That guy's going to be all over the place.
We also, those receivers aren't scrubs either. Like Lazard's
out.
No, but Lazard's out.
Oh, the problem is that Adams has 700 yards this season.
Correct.
Lazard was the second closest, and he had a couple hundred, and then the rest of the team has a combined couple hundred. You're losing a lot. Yeah. Now, having said that, Aaron Rodgers is 6-0 without Adams. It's just Aaron Rodgers, and wouldn't it be so Aaron Rodgers to win without your top 2 receivers on the road against an undefeated team,
the ball out,
and just show the Packers with, hey, how you doing? I'm still here, bro.
Yes.
Alan Pernis's boy, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he needs to show up this game.
Also, if Aaron Rodgers does do that, Jordan Love's traded before the deadline.
Wow, that's a heck of a call there, Grizz.
That is a super steaming
Who are you talking to over there, Grizz?
Okay.
You got an inside source here? You're talking to the chef over at ESPN. That's a heck of a call.
I'm trying to get my name out there.
I see that.
The Grizz is starting, and of course, if it doesn't happen, it's just playing.
Speaking of players being out, and there's obviously a lot of trouble. Injuries, health has a lot to do with it. Michael Gallup is also coming back for the Cowboys, so that adds another weapon to an already potent offense that they can't single coverage. They can't double cover anybody.
And again, what I also like about all 4 teams, the Bucks, the Cards, the Cowboys, and the Rams, I think they all have centerpiece quarterbacks. Their quarterbacks can all play well. They can distribute the ball, okay? And when it comes to the Cards and the Cowboys, because Dak still has a little bit of athletic mobility left, even after the injury, the Cards, that kid at quarterback is a nightmare. When he breaks contain, when he's a dual threat guy at the pro level, and he's being smart. He's not taking hits. He's learned how to slide.
That's huge.
His prowess in baseball is coming handy to sliding and getting out of trouble.
Now, I saw watching Red Zone this weekend. They focused in on the Cards game for a minute, and they showed the height of the linemen. Right, versus his height, Murray's height, and his lineman averaged 6'5". It's 6'5", 6'5", 6'3", I believe, 6'4".
And he's a flat 6 feet, right?
At best.
What?
I mean,
he's 5'9". Listen,
that's with heels on. That's only on the weekends.
Oh, man, give the kid a break, man. He likes tippy-toeing it.
But he finds the length. He finds his receivers. He does what he's got to do.
Which
Kid's got the if factor.
right. I mean, which is
You can't take that.
which is amazing at the fact that these guys are almost a foot taller than you, and you're still able to find those throwing lanes. It actually really is impressive. It really is, and he's a thicker quarterback too. It's not like he's a scrawny body. He has the body to be able to take those hits if need be.
Not too many of them, Coach. Not too many.
Understood.
Not too many.
Nothing you'd want to search out for,
Correct. But again,
But if you have to take one, I guess he could.
Again, to Coach's point, he does a good job of getting out of bounds and sliding.
Look at Carson Wentz after toughing it out and gutting it out and taking all these hits. Now it's not the same.
He did have a really nice run the other day, bro.
He did.
I was very impressed with that run.
He did, and he got out of the way and
Got my over that game.
So it's okay. I got the Colts that day, so it worked out for both of us.
Worked out for both of us there.
I think that wraps up our NFL segment for this week. Moving on to college football. And some pretty interesting surprises here on the slate of games that we've had, and looking forward to the rest of the season. So, Coach, talk to us about Cincy, man.
Well, Cincinnati's number 2 in the country. Again, a tough game against Navy last week. They had to find some grit because that game was closer than anybody thought it would be. But again, conference games, anytime it's a conference game, it's gonna be tight. They know each other. They play each other twice a year. They play each other every year, so they know each other well. And Navy was giving them a battle all the way to halftime, and they were finally able to pull away in the second half, and win that game. And now they're number 2 in the country.
So, aside from Cincinnati being number 2 in the country, which is amazing, it's phenomenal, and I'm glad to see it. But when are people going to stop looking past the armed forces teams and Navy in particular? Like, they're going to bring it, every single game.
What happens with those programs is sometimes when they graduate a lot of guys, it really hurts them because the quarterback is the key to that triple option offense. That's why Air Force is doing so well. They've got a great quarterback. Kid's been there for a couple of years. Army has a couple guys, and their starter's been hurt on and off. Their second team guy got hurt. So, I mean, once you have a good quarterback, if you have a couple of guys that are experienced running that triple option, it's not something you see every day. College football has gone to spread. Everybody runs a spread.
It's hard to prepare for in 4 days.
You're right, 3-4 days.
They're not exactly that. You're playing a team that plays an old style of football that you don't see every day, and they're the armed forces. They're not gonna just show up and give up. You're always gonna get a tough game from them. I don't think they get overlooked, but it's just they're not as good. Navy's always good. You always have a chance that they're going to be.
The situation with that is also they don't get the 5-star recruits, and they don't have the top tier players. Okay, so again, their systems have to be different to give those guys an ability to compete. But they gave Cincinnati all they could handle. Cincinnati only won 27-20. So it was,
An Army gave Wake Forest all they can handle,
oh my
too.
gosh!
How about
please,
that game?
man? That's one of my one of the deep dives. We scored 56 points and can't cover. When has Army scored 56 points?
Hey, we can't cut them all, girl. I mean, you're gonna foresee a game that totals to 126, where both teams individually covered the over of the game.
Incredible!
Come on, man!
What a game! What a game that was. They were listen, and they were within one score all the way until the interception on the fake punt.
Are the two of you done, defaming the Flexbone offense?
No one's defaming it, sir. No one defames
Because
it.
this is blasphemy.
No, it's not.
As an individual who played in the offense, sir, and my quarterback is not here to defend himself, respectfully.
I will refrain.
Our producer who had an unexpected emergency this week.
I'll refrain my comments from your vaunted offense at Ferguson High. And I'll just say that at the college level,
Respectfully,
I will say at the college level, with the right athletes, yes, it's a very difficult offense to be able to defend. But again, it has its limitations.
No, 100%.
And Georgia Tech is a perfect example of that.
There's no 2-minute drill. There's no, if you get out of sync in the offense and you can't, keep your plays and the offense on schedule, it is really tough to get back into games.
And as much as Georgia Tech had great receivers, maybe one of the greatest receivers of all time.
Correct.
Okay. They were also always limited to how far they could get.
Now, it's again, I know we're kind of veering off, but it's still a little bit on topic. It's hilarious because when you look at Georgia Southern when they were winning their national championships, they ran the flex bone offense, and they were two-dimensional in that offense. So it's not that it's a one-dimensional offense that is overcompensating in the run game for a lack of a pass game. It's you can have a pass game out of it, but for some reason they don't choose to emphasize it.
Well, because remember now, when you start playing the better teams, the teams
they're
that
more
have
polished for sure.
That have the big D linemen, that have the corners that can play, the safeties that can come down, it changes everything up. You get me? And that's where you get to. We're gonna man your receivers, okay, and we're gonna play nine man in the box, and we're gonna stop the run. We're gonna force you to beat us throwing the football.
Yeah, we dare you.
Exactly. So, but again, Navy did put up a heck of a fight, and Cincy keeps on winning. They're getting better every week. They got a nice game against Tulane this week, and
they still await that Houston SMU game. That's a huge game.
Houston SMU is very, very big. First of all, for the AAC, it's going to be their premier game of the weekend. I think the difference in that game is going to be the Houston defense. That Houston defense has been playing really, really well. We'll see what happens with that game. The only negative of that game for SMU is that win, lose, or draw, they have to play Cincinnati. If they lose to Cincinnati, they won't go to the AAC championship game. So even if Houston loses this game, they can still win their division, and play Cincinnati in the AAC championship game. So, the American is getting interesting.
All the pressure on SMU then.
It really is. It really is. SMU is in a must-win situation all the way out here.
Well, my favorite game of the week is the Michigan State game. Two teams that you didn't think were going to be undefeated when they played this time of the year. And a Michigan State team that was thought to be on a very down year. A Michigan team that every year has not come to pass. And I think both teams are playing as great as they can. And I want to see what you think about this one, Gil.
Well, I'm with you there, Mario. I'm not going to lie to you. I never envisioned Michigan State running the ball the way they're running it. That running back is exceptional. He's really, really a really, really good running back. They're doing a nice job defensively. This for them has usually been their Super Bowl. This is a game that they circle every year, no matter who they've got on their schedule. Michigan State, Michigan. For Michigan State,
it's a bigger game, I think, for Michigan State than for Michigan because they look at Ohio State more as their main rival.
Yeah, Michigan sees them as their little brother. Exactly. You get me? So they feel like, and again, Michigan State has seen incredible success over the last 10 years.
Way more than Michigan.
Well, no. Listen, in that game, it's always close. If not, they pull up the upset.
They've made it to a college football playoff.
Yeah.
That's saying something. No other team in the Big Ten has dominated other than Ohio State, but Michigan State has been their best, probably, challenge, I would say, in the last decade.
And it doesn't matter what the score is. It doesn't matter how much time is left on the clock.
As we know from a few years ago.
Wow.
Trying to punt one away.
All Michigan had to do was punt, and they couldn't even do that.
Such a debacle.
And that's a great thing about this game, and you're absolutely right. This is the best game to me and we even got Penn State against Ohio State, which should be another good game.
Should have been a really good game, but Penn State laid an egg last week, man. I couldn't believe that. With all those chances the game was terrible against Illinois to begin with, but then you had time after time. All you got to do is score a 2-pointer.
It's just incredible how close this game has been over the last 10 or 11 years. It got to one point where I'm looking at the records now, and it's funny how they take turns winning. Michigan State wins 2 or 3 in a row. Mm-hmm. Michigan wins 2 in a row. They take turns.
And I'm looking at the stats here, and it's crazy how evenly matched these teams are. Just based off of statistics. they're both 7-0. They're 4-0 in conference. Okay, they're within a couple hundred yards of each other with rushing and receiving
They
yards.
both hang their hat on running the football and playing defense. So that's going to be a very, very good football game. And I mean, again, I don't even know which way to lean on that game.
Yeah, I think Michigan State's been tested a little bit more this year than Michigan. This is probably Michigan's toughest test. They were supposed to have a tough test at Wisconsin, but Wisconsin's not that good to me this year.
Yeah, the offense for Wisconsin has been completely
terrible.
Missing.
Every week I feel they're the favorite and they get blown out.
Well,
anyways,
let me put it to you this way. Iowa is playing Wisconsin this weekend, and the over-under's at 36.5.
That's terrible.
Under 40.
Wow.
Wisconsin will probably pull it off because that's what they do. They win these weird games now.
Correct.
But I would think, I was pulling a little bit towards Michigan, but since you had reminded me it's at Michigan State, man, I see a little upset.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's going to be a real close game, and I think both teams are gonna play it close to the vest, and that's going to be as we say in the fighting world, that's going to be a slobber knocker of a game. They're going to go at each other hard, and the rivalry is going to be another one.
It's an old school Big Ten matchup. Some nice Midwestern football there. Okay, so
and the weather's getting just right for this kind of a game this year, this time of year.
All right, let's go ahead and let's move on to Wake Forest, the best team in the ACC.
Can Wake Forest handle the fire? Are they going to be able to keep going, win the ACC, and where are they going to end up? How is this going to work out for them? Who could Mario? You talked about Grizz. You talked about Michigan State and Michigan. Nobody's
seen the Demon Deacons coming.
Who saw the Demon Deacons as the only undefeated team in the ACC?
I mean, they had this weird run in 06 or 07, I'd want to say, where they ended up playing against Georgia Tech in the
Orange Bowl.
They played Georgia Tech in the ACC championship. They ended up playing Louisville in the Orange Bowl.
Correct.
Before Louisville became an ACC team. But I think that's like the only time I've ever seen Wake Forest good.
I would have to agree with that.
No,
gun to your head. Can you tell me another year?
No, sir.
No, you can't. Again, it's like, and they've got Duke this weekend. Then they go to North Carolina and they got at North Carolina and at Clemson.
And they're in the same division as Clemson. Perfect year to be great when Clemson's not good. Kind of wish my team did that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we all wish that our team would have made that run this year. This would be the best year to make the run.
And I'm coming off a win this week, and I'm still sad.
We've avoided it this long, guys. Come on. It was positive.
They've got a tough game again at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's giving them fits for years, the last 4 or 5 years.
So now we're going to go up there and do what we're supposed to do. That's how we do it.
That would be
That's how we
phenomenal.
do it. Watch me win this week.
Back-to-back upsets.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Of the division leaders. With NC State.
I'm kind of torn because I want them to win because I'm a fan, but I kind of don't want people to keep jobs because they're winning. But who knows?
Listen, bud, I got some news for you. I don't think your boy Deep Manny.
I know he's not going anywhere. Let's not remind me about this. I'm just saying, I wake up every day hoping something different. But we'll see.
It's great though that UM won on Saturday, and they do still have a shot of running the table.
They have a shot.
To see what happens.
Everybody in the ACC has a shot.
And Wake Forest is in front of everybody.
And Wake Forest is in front of everybody. But if they lose a couple games, they're in the mix like anybody else. But, just pull a rabbit out of the hat, especially in the Coastal. I mean, it's just, I don't know. The ACC is funny to me this year.
After this Duke game, they do have 3 teams. They got North Carolina, NC State, and Clemson. Those 3 teams.
That'll determine whether you're going to play in Charlotte in December.
If they can navigate that, then we're talking about Wake Forest in the college football playoffs.
I don't think so.
Yuck.
Go figure.
An undefeated Wake Forest doesn't make it in the college football playoffs.
You don't think so?
Think
ACC champion won't do it?
Yes.
They're going to deny them an opportunity to play in the college football championship
if you have Alabama still with 1 loss. Well, that's not going to work out. Hold on. Let me rethink this. Georgia still undefeated. We got Ohio State runs the table. Cincinnati, I think, is over Wake Forest.
Don't forget.
Oklahoma is still undefeated. If they run the table, yeah, I see those teams before Wake Forest.
Don't forget that Michigan and Michigan State are going to drop one now, so they're going to come down.
Yeah, I still think if 4 other teams, even a one-loss Ohio State would be ahead of them, a one-loss Alabama would be ahead of them. And you know how much this pains me to say this, because I believe an undefeated team. I'm just telling you what's going to happen.
We're going back to UCF. What was it, 5 years ago when they went undefeated?
They're going to proclaim themselves
and they
national
proclaimed
champions.
themselves national champions.
Listen, out of all the big schools in the Power 5, like an undefeated Wake Forest, an undefeated Vanderbilt, those teams would never get that respect because they're like, you don't even think that. And who would be Wake Forest's best win of the year?
Oh, you're looking at
A Clemson team that's 3 losses,
NC State,
maybe an NC State team that by the time they get to play them might have 3 losses.
Hold on, it could be Pittsburgh in the ACC
championship. You know,
Yeah, but
Yeah.
is
is that worthy of inclusion?
The way Pittsburgh's been playing. I mean, and that's
Listen,
the whole
I
thing
would be
about
cool
this.
with it. I'm totally cool with
Yeah,
anarchy. I want craziness.
You got 7 teams in front of them with 1 loss.
Well, listen.
Kentucky's in front of them with 1 loss.
Shows you the respect.
In the
they have.
past, several years, the odd conference out has been the Pac-12. So who's to say that the ACC can't?
Oregon one-loss team gets ahead of
They
Wake
are.
Forest.
They're right now.
But I'm saying if they go the rest of the way, Oregon would be ahead of them. It's just, I don't think, remember, everybody hates on how the ACC's played this year. It's all down throughout every team. So it's a team like Wake Forest has an ability to go undefeated. I don't think they get the same kind of respect. That's all.
I mean, it just goes to show how much Clemson was propping up the ACC the past several years when they were going on their run. And again, going back to how the Pac-12's been treated in recent history since the college football championship started, right? This iteration of the playoff.
There hasn't been a Pac-12 team go undefeated.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying.
However, that's my argument is if all things are equal, so then all of a sudden the AAC is better than the ACC, and those are the arguments that we talk about trying to create a playoff. You get me? To include more teams.
The only argument, and this is perception at this point, is that the ACC is a Power 5 conference and the AAC
the American is not.
It is not. It's a group of 5. But I mean, Cincinnati looks good, man. Luke Fickell is one hell of a recruiter.
No, they've done a great job. And the quarterback has been there for 2 or 3 years. He's also a gritty kid. He's gone through injuries and he's gutted it out, and they do a really, really good job.
100%.
And defensively, they're solid. They're a solid defensive team. You know what? And that's where Fickell hangs his hat on.
Right.
On the defensive side of the ball.
And it begs the question, like the competition that they have faced, right, is subpar. I mean, when they have had tough challenges this season, they have, stepped up to it.
Well, I mean,
but they've had an easy go at it, so that may be held against them. But I do think since they're number 2 in the country right now, you can't take that away from them.
They scheduled an Indiana team that was supposed to bring back 80% of their squad,
right?
Offense and defense.
Who was a top 10 team last year?
Yes, they were. They only lost, I think, 1 game last year. Okay, Indiana was supposed to be one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the Big Ten. It's not Cincinnati's fault that they've fallen.
Correct.
Scheduled Notre Dame.
They've played Notre Dame at Notre Dame, not at home. No, at Notre Dame. And they played. They dominated the game, and they won. And that's another team.
No, that's their signature win for sure.
And let me tell you, that's another team that's teetering right on the edge. The wizard, the payout wizard would love to be able to see Notre Dame sneak back up in there.
He's poopy at the show right now.
But that's okay. But again, but they're also another team that's right there at 6-1, and they're also in front of Wake Forest. So there you have that.
Moving along to the Major League Baseball. We have the World Series okay, against the Astros versus the Atlanta Braves. Talk to me about that. That's, that was kind of an unexpected team for me, at least in the National League. I was Dodgers all the way.
Both teams that won 105, 104 games, both got knocked out. And the Braves, who have been a constant contender for the last 6-7 years, have finally broken through and gotten there. Is it their time? They won last night, big game, came out, took the first game, which again, anytime you play a series, if you can split those first two, in any sport, that's all you're looking for. Right now they're trailing 5-1 in the top of the fifth. But again, this is going to be another good series. Atlanta is a tough team. They play well. They've got a good pitching staff. And the Astros have been here before. The Astros have great experience at this juncture of the season. And their bats have been serious. They're averaging, I think, 7.5 runs per game or something like that, Grizz, in the
I think last series they had an average about 7.5 runs for the series. They're hitting the ball off. I mean, not a big baseball guy personally, but I'm a big fan of. I mean, I'm not a fan of the cheating Astros, whatever that is. But I like their team. I like Baker. Been a big fan of his. I've hoped he wins the World Series as a manager.
So that's where I'm torn on this, right? Like, as I grew up in baseball, my grandfather is a huge baseball fan. That's all I knew for the first half of my life. I'm old school when it comes to baseball. Like, yes, there's always been cheating in baseball to some extent, right? It's evolved in the 120-year plus history in baseball. But man, like that team just has an arrogance about them that doesn't jive with me. Now, the other side of it is I would love to see Dusty Baker win a World Series. The guy deserves it. He's a phenomenal manager. And he's one of those guys that, regardless of what team
he's won in every. I think he's the only guy to take 5 different teams to a playoff or something, or just have a winning season with them. He's just a great manager. I'm a huge fan of.
Well, the thing with the Astros, and again, they've been good. And I said it a few days ago. I was at somebody's house and they were watching the Boston Red Sox series, and I said, I have a feeling that this Astros team has a chip on their shoulders, and they have a point to prove. I think that's why they're really going all out and really knocking the crap out of the ball and showing that, look, we can do it we don't need any help. We can do all this. I mean, I read somewhere where supposedly they were whistling or something, or trying to blame them for cheating against the Red Sox. And I discounted that because, like I said, I think that they're on a mission.
Have to be a little bit, crazy to try to cheat right now when everybody's looking at you.
Correct. So again, I think they're on a mission. I think their experience, managerial wise, and on the field gives them that swagger.
Last year they didn't have that kind of chip because there weren't fans, and that's been the big thing. All the fans going everywhere and getting booed everywhere.
Right, and last year for them really was, one of those. All right, whatever. We'll go through the motions, et cetera, et cetera. The other side of it is I really would like to see Atlanta win.
They're a young, talented team. Like, they're easy to root for.
I mean, and like you go back, I go back. And there was a time where pretty much the only baseball we could watch was Turner Broadcasting Systems, TBS, and TNT.
The Braves were the only team.
And the Braves were the only team with Chipper Jones and all those guys. And
that's why I hated them, though, because I didn't even like baseball, but I was like, everybody hates them because they beat the Marlins when they first came in, and they had that kind of, it felt like they had an arrogance to them. I wasn't the biggest fan, but you got to respect them. They had 5 World Series in the 90s.
And like I said, I mean, they're just a team that's always, they've been run very well. You get me? They're always contenders, regardless if they got big names or not. They're always in the mix.
It's just funny, like my first memories of the Atlanta Braves, coming from a family that if you don't believe and worship the pinstripes, you're disowned. Yankee fans, to the fullest extent. my first memories of baseball in the World Series were the
96,
Yankees,
yep.
Dominating the Braves.
Leyritz with the home run, right, in Game 5.
Correct. When they had, when the Braves had potentially one of the best pitching staffs of all time, in Glavine and
Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz.
Correct.
And they used to have Avery too, that was supposed to be really good, but that guy flamed out. But that's probably one of the best trios of all time.
Like I vaguely remember that last game when the Yankees, right before it was bottom of the ninth, and Mariano Rivera, 2 outs, and just 3 or 4 bats in a row just broke it. I forgot who's the batter, and the Braves are gonna get eliminated, right? They're 1 strike away, and they're laughing at the guy. Like I just remember, I don't know who's the batter, but that was I was 7 or 8 years old. That was my first memory.
I think this is the 99 series, if we're talking about.
Was it?
Yeah, because they played in 96, but I think you were like 5 for that one.
No, I was 6, sir. I was 6.
What year were you born, sir?
89.
Okay, so you're 6. That's probably that one. Well, it was when Mariano was a setup guy. I think Westland, whatever.
He took over in the 96.
It was a guy who used to be it was a guy, I mean, this is really deep diving, and I'm not even a baseball guy, but he used to be the John Wetland. He was the closer in 96 from the Expos.
Yeah.
That came over to the Yankees, and Mariano was the setup guy. And then by then, after that, the next year, he ended up being the closer that we all know.
Yeah, that 96, that was like the transition where Jeter was taking over I forgot that shortstop's name, but that crew, that core 4 was, coming into their own.
Walt Weiss?
Walt Weiss. No,
it'll come to me.
No, not Walt Weiss. No, not Walt Weiss.
As you can tell.
Definitely not Walt Weiss.
I think Walt Weiss, though, at some point did play for the Yankees, though.
As you can tell, Major League Baseball is not exactly our wheelhouse.
But like I said, I mean, both teams, I think, have Dusty on the one side and the Braves on the other. They're good. They are very good teams, and
great organizations.
Great organizations.
Drafted well.
Correct. Correct.
All right, rolling right along. All right, let's touch on the NBA here. Okay, start of the season. So, as we start to wind down, right, NBA becomes more prominent, right, with less and less football going forward. So, talk to me about the East, contenders and pretenders.
I'd like to say that I think it's going to be the Nets, Bucks, and Heat in the East. I would have said the Sixers, but the drama they're going through with Ben Simmons, I don't think they're going to hold it together throughout the whole year. Sadly to say, probably 4th would be the Knicks or the Hawks, one of those. But I think with what we got with Lowry, the additions for the Heat, obviously if the Nets get Irving back, they're unstoppable, and the Bucks are the Bucks. They just won the title and they got the MVP. So, I mean, I think it's, to be honest, the NBA is kind of the easiest one to know always who the top teams are going to be. But it's been a little crazy the last couple of years. But it comes down to it. If you have the best players in the world on your team, you're going to win. And if the Nets have those 3, Harden, Durant, and Irving in the playoffs healthy on a roll, they're going to be in the East. Hate to say it. Heat fan all the way, but you got to be real.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that Milwaukee is going to go a run for their money. I can't.
They won't roll over and play dead.
I can't count out the Greek Freak. He's gonna find ways to. He's a hardworking guy. He really is, and he's such a humble all-star. That I think that they're gonna be in that mix to fight with the Nets.
I mean, in an era where NBA players have chosen to go the easiest route to win a championship. He's done it the hard way. He's done it the respectable way. Stayed in a non-major market and did it really without a second superstar. He is the only superstar there. And now, granted, you have some high-level role players on that team, but in an era where you need 2 to 3 superstars, he did it on his own. No, and he's always going to remember that.
And he plays both ends of the court. It's not like he just scores.
Correct.
He's one of the better defenders in the NBA.
The guy's named the Greek Freak for a reason.
And he's developing a nice little jump shot there. Oh, I mean, he's entering that next level of his development, which, I mean, he's pretty close to unstoppable at this point. So yeah, I mean, definitely respectable. I know Dan Le Batard and others do this all the time. Where, well, how many rings is that one ring actually worth? You know, with the way that he was able to bring a championship back to Milwaukee after 50 years or so. Lou Alcindor.
Well, to a place like Milwaukee, it's huge. It's like what LeBron did with Cleveland. Like, one ring for them is probably like 3 or 4 to like a Boston or an LA. It's game changer for a city that nobody thought would even be a contender, because who's going to Milwaukee? You know, the only reason you're in Milwaukee is because you got drafted there. You're going to get a guy like Greek Freak out of the free agency? No. You got to build from within and then set up the culture.
And hope he stays.
But the guy looks like he wants to stay.
And that's why I go back to the whole humble situation. You know, he's a home. He loves Milwaukee. He wants to stay there. And he's never wavered on that. You know, and he's always tried to bring guys in.
And they prove it to him. He won a championship.
Correct.
They got him talent.
Right.
So,
right.
Why did LeBron leave Cleveland? Because they didn't give him the talent that he needed, and he left.
I would argue that championship for Milwaukee, if it wasn't for Cleveland not winning a championship in over almost 60 years, that Milwaukee championship may have more significance than that Cleveland championship.
That was 50 years ago, yeah.
No, definitely. Like I said, that's a big deal to them, and they're going to keep winning. That's the other side of the coin. You get me? They're not just going to be a one-shot deal.
Oh no. They're going to be in the conversation.
You know, definitely contender.
As long as that guy plays for Milwaukee, they will be in the mix.
For sure. Now, let's jump over to the other side of the league with the Western Conference, which, you know, I think it's a little bit more, you know, there's more competition there, right? They seem to they seem to be a little bit more loaded than the Eastern Conference. So, talk to me about that one. What do you guys think?
Are the Golden State Warriors going to make a comeback and steal it again? They're 4-0 right now.
They don't even have Clay yet.
And they don't have Clay yet. And they're playing.
Steph is taking it back to a few years ago when he was MVP talent. He's on a mission. Talk about a chip on your shoulder to prove all these people that, you know, you're done, it's over. I mean, and they got talent. They've drafted some guys, some big boys. Wiseman. They got Wiggins, who was the number 1 pick years ago. That's like your 3rd or 4th option to have a guy that could just put buckets up like that.
Must be nice.
Yeah, must be really nice.
For that to be your 3rd guy. You know, and like you mentioned, Clay's not even there yet. So I mean,
once Clay comes back, he's gonna have a chip on his shoulder for not being a top 75 guy. Guy's probably top 3 shooter of all time. I think you got to be on that list.
I mean,
so
maybe like right now, I don't think he should be listed in the top 75. I mean, he's been out for 2 years. You know, when it's all said and done, I mean, let's be honest. Yes, he's probably in that conversation. But
hey, the Warrior, his fellow teammates are ribbing him that he's like 77. So let's say he was 77. That's 2 spots away. I think he's a top 75.
I mean, I think you have to kind of go through that progression. Like he's best ability is availability. He hasn't been available for 2 years. That plays into that ranking, right? Your that plays into it.
But that's his only injury he's ever had. That was that kind of perception.
And like,
dude, the guy exploded for 37 points in a quarter one time.
Back-to-back injuries.
And like Grizz just finished saying, that could be the worst thing to happen, is that he's not included.
Oh yeah, comes out with his hair on fire.
He said he's gonna play with a chip. Talk about playing with a chip on your shoulder. He's gonna
he'll make it to the 100 team for sure when he's done.
He's gonna prove everybody, you know. And what a wonderful addition.
What I'm saying is that guy could stop playing today. He's top 3 all time in shooting threes for me. That's all.
Well, you know, what an addition he's gonna be to that roster.
I do want to talk about Jamal Murray coming back. Okay, I think that if he doesn't get hurt, conversation in the West is different.
And that's another thing. You're coming off, you know, same thing like Clay, right? So he gets hurt at the end of the year in the finals, right? And a horrific injury. So how do you come back? You come back the next year, it was a really weird year, right? You have the pandemic and all that. And now Jamal Murray, he's coming off that type of same, like, terrible injury. You got to just ease these guys back in. Can't, like, just throw them in. Denver's got a great team. I wouldn't rush them back.
And they made it to the second round or the conference finals without him.
Conference finals.
Yeah, the conference finals.
Well, he got hurt in the
in the round
semis.
before.
in the semis.
But they were able to pull it off, win a couple games. But once you lost him, you know you weren't gonna take it all.
For sure.
Oh, but like you say, they've got a good roster. They've got a nice team. That if he can stay healthy, I mean, again, that's where I think there's a lot more parity in the West than in the East.
Oh,
the East only has like 4 or 5 teams that are contenders.
We haven't even talked about the Lakers that added Russell Westbrook. That they are name value, and I think they're gonna like end up being like the 4th or 5th seed because of the way they're gonna like have to gel. But man, I think people sleeping on Russ. People thinking, oh, they can't coexist. Come on, man.
Last night was a perfect example of that. He was able to go, and that's the ticket.
You can have LeBron take time off now because you got a guy like Russell Westbrook that could just do that.
But the ticket with Russell is that he doesn't shoot the threes. When he falls in love with the threes, it's horrible. He goes back to being mediocre.
I know, but I think being with LeBron's gonna help him by the end of the year with that because LeBron is too cerebral to let that go.
It, like last night he took it to the hole. He made short range jumper. AD played well.
Look at Carmelo coming back to talk about a guy that's finally a little fountain of youth, finally playing with his boy. You know what I'm saying? When you need big shots, you got a guy that, I don't care how old Carmelo is, and I hate that guy too from playing in the Knicks. But that guy is buckets. That guy will take a shot any day, anytime. I don't like to say it, but I think it's Lakers and Warriors in the finals to make it to the NBA finals. Because Suns, I think they're going to regress a little bit, even though they're going to be there. Denver's hot. Utah, who finished number 1 last year, I forgot about them.
Yeah, no, that's another team.
That's another team that they're going to just be
they play.
solid.
They just play.
But I just think when the playoffs come, these things that you got behind you shrink up a little bit and get a little tight. And some people don't know how to get through that. And, Utah tightened up a little bit too much last year.
But you know what, though? With that being said, though, now they've gone through the ringer.
They have gone through the ringer.
So now
there's better teams.
That's fine. But
I just think it's going to be a whole lot of who knows who's going to get in there. It's harder in the West. Got the Clippers that still got,
correct,
powerhouse duo in Leonard and
the West
Paul
is
George.
The West is going to be extremely interesting. The West is going to be very, very interesting.
All right, let's get a little hometown chatter going here. Okay.
Well, speaking of hometown, we got that game almost finishing up right now. Heat are up by 15.
Oh wow!
With 1:30 to go against the Nets.
Lowry came back.
Yeah.
Okay. That again, and that's to me is a key.
Dark horse.
Well, to me, the key to that team is going to be their cohesion. How well do they play together? You get me? Make sure that Lowry plays in his role. Jimmy buckets. Hero coming off the bench. That's all about them finding and gelling, and that's the key in basketball. The key in basketball is getting to know each other.
I mean, Heat culture, right, over the long term, they're about grinding, so I think that's their intangible that they can lean on going forward. They can grind out some tough wins, because, Jimmy can be rather streaky at times, but he finds ways to facilitate in other ways.
Oh, but that's why Lowry becomes very important as well.
Today's stats for Jimmy, 17 and 14 on the 14 rebounds, 7 assists.
Because he doesn't have to carry the team. Lowry brings the ball down.
We got PJ Tucker throwing 15 points in here tonight.
Again,
PJ Tucker's a great addition. Great
addition, which is an addition for us, subtraction for Milwaukee.
Correct.
That is a great point.
Correct.
Now I do have to mention though that Bam's got to be the difference maker on the court for them. When he goes, they go, right? Or am I wrong?
Bam led the night tonight with 24.
There you go.
I'm not sure if he leads, but he becomes an integral part because he's the defensive key, because he's the man in the middle blocks. Okay. And then he opens up the floor for the other guys because he's underneath.
He's able to do the dirty work.
Exactly. And again, the president of the Heat has done a great job of putting together a nice roster. Okay. If we can stay healthy, I think, like the Grizz said, they're going to contend.
Yes, sir. Shout out to the Godfather.
Be top 4, okay? And if they get hot, again, you never know.
I mean, the way they played tonight, apparently, they dominated. I mean, you got Kevin Durant had 25, Harden 14, But like I said, man, you don't got a guy named Irving, and that guy, once he gets into the lineup and they gel, be a scary team at the end. But if we play the way we played tonight against this team,
and the wonderful thing about the Heat is that you can always count on them to play defense.
You live and die by that sword.
And you got a guy like Jimmy Butler that's a hardworking leader. He just doesn't talk it. He walks it.
That guy's a lunch pail guy.
You get me? And he's in the right place. He's in the right place. And the other guys are gelling off of him, and it's really becoming...
Bro, this is the place he was destined to be.
Correct.
He was made for Heat culture.
The one thing that I do say, and again, not a natural Heat fan, naturally a Knicks fan in hiding for almost 20 years.
You can stay hiding.
Keep hiding.
That's all right.
I mean, I don't really care. I'm a Giants fan because of the Patriots. I don't care. I'm a Giants fan over the Patriots, but don't ever bring that Knicks stuff in here, bro. Please get out of here with that.
Moving right along, okay, I do think that, like you said, it is Jimmy's his wheelhouse, right? The place that he was destined to be. And again, it's whether you hate the Heat or you love the Heat, their culture and their attitude is to be respected. And that's going to carry them through some tough wins. Now, are they a dark horse? Maybe. Things go right for them over the course of the season.
I can't even call them a dark horse, to be honest with you. I really do think that they are one of the top 4 teams in the conference. And by being a top 4 team, and you can win. To me, their roster, the way they play, if they can stay healthy, they're gonna contend.
Very interesting. All right, we're gonna give some time here to let Gilly the Greek warm up. All right, for the deep dive. So
I need to do
right
about
back.
25 jumping jacks.
There you go. Get that heart rate up. And we're back for the much anticipated final segment of Two Coaches, One Grizz, the deep dive with Coach Gil Laura.
The deep dive needs to come up for some air. We went 2-3 again last week. Man, and it sucks because I went 6-3 on all my plays, and it just happens to be that the 3 losses are the ones that I get on the podcast. My luck. We pulled out the Nevada game at the end. What an incredible finish to that game to be able to cover. Praying for the touchdown, but go ahead and fail for the 2-pointer. We don't need any more. We're good. Let's just cover that.
Good teams win. Great teams cover.
Army scores 56 points. Can't cover the gives up 70. So that one went down. That one went down the tubes. But we're back at it today. Our 3-week total is 6-8. We're two games shy of 500, and hopefully this week we can get off the schneid and get some wins and pull it off. Our first game is a Thursday night Sun Belt Fun Belt action. It's going to be Troy plus 18.5 against Coastal Carolina at Coastal Carolina.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we think that, first of all, Troy's been playing very well. Their defense is playing well. They had a bye week last week, and they're coming into Coastal to play Coastal after Coastal drops the game versus App State. Troy is 3-1 ATS against Coastal Carolina last 4 years. Coastal Carolina is 10-12 ATS after a loss the last 4 years. So again, we have a little trend going with us. We're also going to jump on Louisville plus 7. The line has already moved to 6.5. The line of the Louisville game has already moved to 6.5. We took them at plus 7. They're going to be playing at NC State.
It's an interesting game.
Yeah, we the way we look at it is we think that NC State is still going to be a little bit in the doldrums after dropping the game to the Canes here in Miami.
I mean, if you lose to the Canes, don't play the next week. Just take it off.
So yeah, we're hoping that that Malik, the quarterback for the Louisville Cardinals, can run ragged on the NC State Wolfpack defense. We're going to stay in the ACC, and we're going to take the BC and Syracuse under 50. The line has already moved also to 49.5. That under for that series has been 5-3 since 2013. BC is 5-2 to the under this year, and Syracuse is 3-2 to the under in the Carrier Dome at home. So we think both teams are going to run the football. and it's going to be an under game.
This is some deep stuff.
Well,
I'm in the deepest part of the ocean right now trying to survive. This is crazy.
We're hoping that the deep dive gets us back up to and get some air. We're not too happy with what we've been doing. We've got a couple of money line plays coming up. We're going to go against a popular play. Everybody's taking SMU. Everybody loves SMU this weekend at Houston. We're going to go with Houston on the money line. We think that the difference there is going to be the defense.
So no contrarian mentality here, huh?
Well, it is contrarian because we're going against the public. Okay. Most of the public is taking Houston. Houston in this game is 7-3. Is 7-3 straight up, 6-4 ATS. So we do like them at home. We think SMU comes in, and Houston, the Houston defense will be the difference. Our next game is Kentucky on the money line. We're taking Kentucky against Mississippi State. We think the Wildcats will.
You pull this one out, huh?
Will go ahead and win this one at Mississippi State. Under Bob Stoops, are 5-3 ATS in this particular game. So we figure we believe that Kentucky will continue to win and put itself in a position to try to contend for one of the SEC division.
So
participation trophy.
Well, I mean, no, they
have to win all their SEC games, and Georgia has to lose 2 games.
Correct.
Highly unlikely.
So again, they're pulling for Florida this weekend.
I'm not pulling for Florida this
weekend. I know that. I understand that. I probably will because I'm going to take the 14. But that's on side note. Our last
Money is not a fan of anybody but whoever wins.
No, when you gamble, you can't be a fan.
That's why I wouldn't gamble on that game. I loathe the Florida Gators. Shout out Ed Gomez.
Our last game on the deep dive is San Diego State on the money line against Fresno.
You love some Fresno State.
Well, and San Jose State.
But I'm taking San Diego State, Poppy.
Oh, San Diego State. I'm sorry.
Diego State.
I was still stuck on that unbelievable comeback from San Jose State last week.
That started our week off well last weekend. We just couldn't finish it right. But yeah, we're gonna go San Diego State at home.
But these Aztecs are bringing it home, right, Gil?
Well, I believe so. I believe the Aztecs are gonna not only beat Fresno, but I think they'll beat them by more than one touchdown. I think the Fresno defense showed itself last week, giving up 32 points to Nevada. The last drive only taking about 28 seconds. So
yeah, we know a little bit about that, don't we?
But yes. No, but again, I really do think that San Diego State is going to control the time of possession, and their defense is going to take it. In the last 9 games that they've played, the home team is 6-3 straight up. And that's where San Diego State is at. They're at home. So we think San Diego State wins that. Hopefully we're able to win this weekend. If we can go 4-2, it puts us in a position we're back at 500.
There you go.
So that's we're looking for at least that.
Yeah, man. It's a long season, man. We got time to make this up.
So I did want to bring this up for those who are listening that may not know you as well. What goes into your picks? Like, I know that you make more picks than what you talk about here on the podcast, but what goes into choosing some of these lesser known competitions, right, for you to bring up? I get it. It's awesome, right? It's something that everybody else kind of covers the bigger games, but talk about how you choose what you're going to cover on your deep dives every week.
Well, As we talked earlier on in the cast or during the first podcast, I am working off of an algorithm that I use and I work on. So I look at that first and I compare my number to what the number is that Vegas comes out with. Okay, if we see a big discrepancy, that's a game that we'll highlight because we think that there's an opportunity there to win. Okay, then from there we'll take a look at. Is it a popular play? Is it a contrarian play? Where's everybody at? Okay. The public does win. I'm not going to say the public loses all the time, but we try to be as contrarian as possible, and we try to stay away from wherever the public is at. Then we'll try to look at some trends in each game. In college football, trends are very consistent. Like there are certain trends. Like again, we go back to Virginia UM. The underdog in that game has covered the last 7 years running, I think.
Yeah, they're very prominent. You can kind of bank on those trends.
Correct. So if in that game, if the underdog is playing well or has a shot, you take the underdog. You take the points because 8 out of 10 times that's who's going to hit it. Again, there's other times where the home team is the play. The home team always wins 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, regardless. And like we talked about Michigan State earlier on, that's a game where Mark D'Antoni covered 6 straight games, 7 straight years. They couldn't lose an ATS game. They might lose a game, but they covered. So you were good taking them. So again, those are some of the things that we look at, and we try to see stats wise. For instance, there are some systems that you can look at where if both teams are good rushing teams in college football, you take the under. It's an under game.
Okay. Shorter game, clock's moving.
Correct. Points are at a premium. Okay. And over under in college football of 50 points. 50 points is a low total. It's considered a low total. Where in the NFL, you're looking at 42, 43. That's more of a cutoff. 50 points in a college game is a low under. So you're looking for conference games. That's your number one.
Familiarity.
Exactly. You're looking for teams that rush the ball well. You get me? I mean, Army rushes the ball well, so you don't think they're going to score 56 points and lose, but still, I haven't gotten over that one
you
yet.
have every now and then you have an anomaly. What are you going to do?
You're absolutely correct. Grizz. So again, as you can see, I'm still not over that.
Because if you knew everything, we wouldn't be doing this show. We'd be living in Vegas right now.
Yes, sir. So again, and you look at conference road dogs where there's a low total, points are at a premium, things of that nature that help out and give you clues as to where the game could go. Like, for instance, Michigan State +4 this week, when you take everything into consideration, is not a bad play. Okay, it's an underdog of 4 or less. Okay, it's 2 teams that rush the football, and it's an under of 50 points. Solid. It's a conference game, so again, it's gonna be right there.
No, I mean that's definitely for someone who stays away from betting on sports, because I feel like my predictions whenever there's money involved, they go the opposite direction. But no, I mean that's great analysis and that's great insight into how you choose your games for every week's deep dive. So that's some great stuff right there.
And I'm going to tell you what, in a couple of weeks we're going to have someone on the podcast. We're going to have an interview with one of the better handicappers in Twitter world. She's also part of Yahoo Sports.
Little teaser.
So hopefully everybody listens in, and she's going to give you also some insights on how she does things and how she gets her winners.
That's awesome stuff. Excited to hear that, and you did a great job with your first interview on the podcast. Looking forward to more of that as we continue our evolution here. Fellas, I think that wraps it up for this week. Grizz, you got anything to add here?
I need one more run in this Astros-Braves game to be a happy man. Sorry, off subject. I had a great time talking to the coaches as always. We covered a lot of great topics. As always, I'm trying to make some money. I'm going to list a lot of the things Gil said here to try to help me with that. And we also learned that Frankie likes terrible teams like the Knicks and the Giants.
I'm loyal. I'm loyal to a fault, sir. Okay? So, got to stick with my teams, even though it's quietly. But we thank you guys for listening. Those of you that have subscribed, okay, and have listened to the last several episodes, thank you. Continue to provide us with any and all feedback that you guys have, and share it with any and all of your friends.
All you got to do is just send it out. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Send and share. That's all we ask.
Send that link out. Help us. Okay. Our success is your success as well. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Talk to you next week.